so what's up? And Eric's like, oh no, come on, let's go. Like, this is not happening, Sweet Lou.
And then Matt just kisses her on the cheek like he's known her for years. Nah.
It's actually like maybe the least offensive thing he's done to a woman in the,
That's saying
in the movie.
something.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it almost came off as sweet. Like, all right, see you, baby.
I finally
watched.
I finally
Watched. I
finally
watched. I
finally
watched.
I finally
Watched.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of I Finally Watched. This is David.
And this is Alain, and I finally watched Grind.
So, Grind is one of the first movies that I went and drove to the movie theater by myself to see. So, like, once I turned 16 and got my driver's license, I would just randomly want to go see something that no one else would. And so I would go. I remember this specifically and The In-Laws, the Ryan Reynolds, not Mel Brooks, Albert Brooks movie.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh man, well, that's another one we could do. Oh, we don't have to. But I really like this movie. I saw it like it was in a pretty crowded theater, and I kind of was like the only one that I knew that kind of knew this movie. And then when I was like, oh, we should do this, like a year ago, I looked and like you couldn't even look this up on Roku. Like it wasn't available anywhere to stream. And only recently has it like that changed. I watched it on Peacock. But then I was talking about it, my wife Ashley, she's like, I love that movie. And then Garrett, who we've had on before, was like, dude, I love that movie. He actually watched it a couple of days ago, and he's like, yeah, a lot of this doesn't hold up. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely accurate to like back then. And this is also a movie that I bought on DVD. And I remember one summer I played high school football my senior year. I was a 195-pound lineman, just to like how small our school was. And I wasn't very good. And at like every day during like summer practice, I would come home, put this movie on, and just lay in bed and either fall asleep or like watch the whole thing. So I've seen this movie a ton, but not in like decades. And this is the 20-year anniversary of it. Alain, you can now shit on the movie.
Look, I can understand being like 16 and watching this and thinking, all right, man, this is like cool shit. I want to be just like Sweet Lou. Like I get it, but I think you were right in thinking that this does not hold up, because it doesn't. And there's points in the movie where I would think that didn't even hold up then. A lot of the stuff with Matt, the character Matt, is just like gross and really doesn't hold up now with the whole like don't molest women sort of deal. But I like when I was younger, I liked the movie Euro Trip. And if I watched that same year, okay, so if I watch that now, it would probably hold up just as well as Grind, and which is not at all.
Euro Trip is still awesome.
Euro Trip is still awesome. Okay,
watch
so
that
we can
within
agree
the last
that
3 years.
Okay, so we can agree that in the hierarchy of like road trip stoner flicks, Euro Trip is top and Grind is somewhere in the bottom 100th, right? The thing is, though, is that there's so much like level of stupidity within this movie that I'm not even like, I don't even understand like what they're going for in the end. Like I get that they want to get sponsored, whatever that means. Oh, that's another thing, is that me and my relationship, or like my run-ins with like skaters and skating back when I was like in middle school, which is when this movie came out for me, was not good. I had a lot of bullies in middle school that were skaters, and I probably just like in my mind have a negative connotation to that sort of lifestyle just because of like my personal run-ins with that. And so watching this movie, I was like, I bet you every single person I detested back then loved this fucking movie. And so that also puts me on like a weird like thing about like a weird mind frame about watching it. I'm like, nah, this is like I don't get skating culture. That's not like my thing. But I'm also like in a negative way of looking at it, thinking that the people that I did not get along with in middle school also might have liked this flick. So it's like I walk in with that. But also, like, if you really think about the plot, it doesn't make a fucking bit of sense. But we can get into that. We can get into that.
Yeah, so I was kind of with you that it didn't really hold up when I started it. But by the end of it, with the music, because a lot of the music is stuff I listened to back then. I've never skateboarded a day in my life. So I'm not a skateboarder, so I have no like ties to the movie through that. But I just by the end of it, I realized that I had sort of just tricked you into watching a sports movie, because that's what this is.
If you can consider skateboarding a sport, sure.
You're like really into your riff tracks mode right now, because like there's no argument that skateboarding is a sport. It's physical and it's a competition.
I'm arguing it.
All right, what's your argument? Go for it.
It's just a bunch of douchebags on wooden planks.
What's a sport? What's the definition of a sport?
Good point.
Okay, there we go. So, but as I got to the end of it, I was like really still drawn into it. And I agree with you. I think the main difficulty with this movie is Matt. And I want to say that Vince Valouf, who plays him, I was the whole time like, I fucking hate this guy. And then at the very end of the movie, they have the credits with like the bloopers.
Yeah.
And just that little bit of him, I was like, oh, yeah, he's like a normal fucking person who's been told to like be this character. You know what I mean? Like,
you think that? Yeah. Because he takes up 90% of the bloopers doing like fucking weird shit during the between the takes.
You know they're telling him to do that, right? Like, he doesn't have carte blanche. He's not the director of this movie. They're like, oh, you're really good at improvising. Do this. And like, then they chose the takes that we got.
I will say that the part of the movie where I actually liked Matt the most was when they go into that animal skate shop and the guy is on the DJ table and he's like...
The guy? You mean Tom Green?
Okay, yeah, Tom Green. So Tom Green is on the DJ table, and Tom Green's like, you know, Jimmy Wilson. He's like, yeah, man. And all of them, including Matt for once, are acting like you would in this situation where you're just like completely frustrated with the guy. And you're like,
I love Adam Brody just walks away.
Yeah, Adam Brody just walks away. And then Matt is like, he's like, so we missed him. He was here. And then
he's like, it happened already. And then
it happened already. He's like, it already happened.
Yeah.
That was the best part. I love that from Matt, because it was like in a situation where it was, they had to deal with a guy more dumbass than Matt. And so it's like they didn't know how to handle it. And it was great. Speaking of Adam Brody carried this movie. And he was the best part of this movie. And I watched it again just now. And he is by far the best thing about the movie. Like, leagues.
I actually disagree. I don't think it's by far. I think for me, it's between him and Sweet Lou.
Except because Sweet Lou is gross.
He is and he isn't though, right? Like, so the beginning where you introduce to him and he's going after like 18-year-olds that have just graduated.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's gross. But everything else, I have like a begrudging respect for someone who is so who they are and uninhibited and not hiding, you know what I mean? What he is. Like, there's no pretense with Sweet Lou. I am who I am. I mean, and this is obviously an homage. Some people would say just straight theft of Matthew McConaughey's character in Dazed and Confused, right? But Sweet Lou doesn't hide who he is. He's like, I am interested in, first of all, he's interested in making out quite a bit, which is like, maybe grow up a little bit into like just fucking these chicks. Like, maybe that's where you should, like, where you could grow a little bit. But he's got some of like the funniest like lines and some of the funniest. One of my favorites is at the end where Matt has like cleaned up his act. And like, as we get to Santa Monica, you just see this blonde chick with like the hugest tits. And then later on, she like checks out Matt and is talking to him. And then as Matt walks away, you just see Sweet Lou's face, and he's just like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, the interaction there is like, Matt's like, you like what you see? And then the blonde's just like, maybe. And yeah, you're right. Sweet Lou's like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Yeah. I enjoy both of them. I mean, I think very clearly Jennifer Morrison is the best part of this movie.
Jennifer Morrison is amazing in this film, and she looks amazing in this film. There's nothing wrong with Jennifer Morrison's character in this movie.
Except for the fact that, and I had this as a note in the beginning, but it really comes to a head in the end. The difference between when there's actual skateboarding and they're just showing like feet in the beginning. They do that for like most of the opening montage of the skating to the skate shop. And then at the very end, they show Mike Vogel like skating just a very little bit, like on the board, like around the corner. Right. You're like, not the same person. No. But then you can very clearly see in all the last skateboarding scenes in Santa Monica, you can see the actual skateboarders who are wearing like the wigs and the clothes.
Right.
I think that's just like, it's funny that they're just like, fuck it, moving on. Like, it doesn't matter. You know, everyone knows that they're not actually doing this.
So I was reading some of the Rotten Tomato reviews of this film. By the way, we have to have a rule now for the future that we can't do any films below like a 20% score. I
agree to no such rule.
One of the
what did the fans say about Grind? That's what I want to know.
This had an 8. This had an 8% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I love the reviews. One of the biggest complaints is that they use stunt skaters and they don't even try to hide it, was one of the reviews.
Okay, so what I just said to you is, what was the audience score? The audience score is a 79% because I'm a man of the people.
You're the man of the people? Oh my God.
A man of the people, and the people say that Grind is awesome. Let's get into the movie, because obviously we're not going to agree on it overall, but let's start talking about it. One thing that really stuck out to me in the beginning is it opens with him listening to the radio, and the DJ is like, beautiful morning, Chicago, and all those Bulldogs graduating, go get them. Why is this like a high school radio station? Because why is a radio station in Chicago shouting out one high school? There's got to be hundreds of high schools in Chicago, but he just happens to be shouting out our protagonist's high school. Like, that didn't make any sense to me.
That's another thing I caught on the second watch, is that he's on his way to school, right? He's skateboarding on his way to school. And before going to school, he stops by the skate shop and has this interaction with Bam and the skate shop owner. And then you have this like kind of full circle thing at the end that mirrors this beginning. So that's why this beginning scene is important. But when you get after that and he's making his way through the school and you meet Adam Brody's character, Dustin
Knight.
Yeah. The last names of all these guys are a whole nother thing too, but I digress. Anyways, you meet Adam Brody. And they're dressed in like their graduation attire, their gowns and their hat. And it's like he's like, we're late. They're going to a graduation. Hard cut to them just walking in the backyard of the Rivers house. And right when we meet Matt, I feel like there was a whole graduation scene that was completely cut from this movie.
You mean like you think it was going to be in there at some point?
I mean, they're wearing the gowns and they're heading to somewhere, and then hard cut to like, oh, it's after graduation.
Did you want to sit through the ceremony? Were you like, oh, I wonder who else is graduating today?
Well, I'm wondering if they even shot it, because if they shot it, it's like, then what happened in that scene, and then if they didn't, then it's just weird on why would you make them all seniors? I guess I don't know.
I think you're just establishing that they're seniors and that this is the summer after high school, and so this is like a gap summer of like trying to make their dreams come true, because they established that Eric has to go work at his dad's hardware store and Adam Brody's going off to college. And I want to say the introduction of Matt, I do find that joke pretty funny. He's like, Matt deceives you, because Matt actually has it together to him jumping off the roof, I think is like a funny cut. This movie is aged by when the main characters are introduced, they get that like title card with their name next to it.
I actually didn't have a problem with that, because I thought that was more like, that wasn't a product. I mean, it was a product of the time, but I thought it was more of a product of like, it's a skateboard movie, because it's very graphic in that sort of way.
There wasn't many graphic things in the movie.
No, not graphic, like graphic, like artistically.
I kept going back and forth on whether Bam Margera was like a good actor in this.
I was surprised to learn that he's an actual pro skater, and I was like, oh, he's actually doing like a pretty okay job, except when that scene with Jennifer Morrison, which like you need a little bit of depth of an act, like just a little bit more depth, and he just wasn't hitting the mark. He was shooting a little below. But I thought in that first scene, that interaction with him and the skate shop owner was like pretty decent.
No, yeah. But what I'm saying, like, I'd watch it one time and be like, he's not very good. And I watch it again and be like, he's pretty natural. I didn't know what they're a little like loose with like what you're supposed to get out of, like, I guess he wanted to fuck Jennifer Morrison and she didn't want to, is what we're supposed to eventually get out of this. But yeah, unclear.
It's very unclear. She's like, I heard you were saying things about me. Why don't you say them to my face? And then he goes, I want you to stop. Okay, I'm saying it to your face. Stop hanging around me. So it's very vague.
Yeah. The next thing I want to talk about is, well, first of all, you have Chris McDonald as Mike Vogel's father, Mr.
Right.
Rivers. Mr. Rivers. I gotta say, like, the casting in this movie is insane. All these people that you're like, that dude, that guy. It has the guy from Bloodsport with scars on his face.
Yeah.
Like, just crazy. So after we meet him, we go to Chili's and such, where we get Stephen Root as the boss, and then Brian Posehn as a customer who like wants an extra.
That scene, I'm like, what is this movie? How did they do this?
They just got everyone to be in it. It's so funny, but I love Brian Posehn like, yeah, it's not my fault. I didn't realize it until I ate the whole thing. And Adam Brody like, do you want to go to the bathroom and like make more room before I make this? She's like, do you want me to call the adult back up here? I love all that part.
Adam Brody, I don't even know if Adam Brody's a good actor. The only thing that he's great in this flick, but he always plays like the same character, like the awkward, straight edge, kind of nerdy white dude. Like he's the same dude in everything.
Talking about this in the OC. What else have you seen him
in? Gilmore Girls, the OC.
I didn't know he was in Gilmore Girls, but
yeah.
I mean, WB acting. You're not really asked to do that much.
But even in like Shazam, where we get like 5 seconds of him, the little kid version of him plays like an Adam Brody-esque character. It's so funny.
In Promising Young Woman, he plays like a would-be rapist, but he's an Adam Brody would-be rapist. So, you know, he definitely has a type, but that's like, I mean, he's very good at kind of understated, sarcastic dialogue, right? And you can tell, and I read this and confirmed it, like a lot of this movie is ad-libbed. Like there's a general idea of what the dialogue should be.
So when you were saying that Matt's character didn't have a carte blanche of but you're kind of wrong though, because if this movie was ad-lib, then he would have a say in what he said.
No, yeah, no, I understand. But what I'm saying is like they chose the takes that they went with, right? Like they chose like because in one of the bloopers he's like, well, should I go bigger? Should I go smaller? You know what I mean? Like where do you want it at?
Hey, I'm with the Release the Twins Foundation. Can I make a donation?
There is a 5-minute period where he 3 times sexually harasses different women. And I'm just like...
It's bad, dude.
It's too much.
It's too much. And then, I mean, but you could say the same about Sweet Lou. So...
Sweet Lou never sexually harasses anyone. He says, what's up?
I felt sexually harassed watching Sweet Lou, okay?
If Sweet Lou said, what's up to you, you'd be like, fuck, I gotta make out with this guy.
I don't even get the appeal. He's like 30 years older than everyone else. Oh, whatever.
He's 24. He said he graduated 6 years ago.
Whatever, man. I just was like,
he has an air about him. He's
Sweet Lou.
I love the line from Adam Brody though. After the 3rd time Matt like harasses someone, he's like, "I'm in a dry spell, man." He's like, "You have to be in a wet spell to be in a dry spell." He's like, "I've had sex."
How many faces that Adam Brody makes like on the side to like making fun of the Matt character is great. Like that's just you can tell that's just like no direction, just Adam Brody just going off, and it works so well.
Oh, by the way, we didn't even mention the most unrealistic part of this movie is being in a bean suit at a fast food restaurant and then landing a female pro skater like within 3 months that has saw you in said bean suit.
I took it as like she had no interest in him at that point, but it grew as like the movie went on, especially when he stood up to Bam for her. Like that's when it kind of connected.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. So we're already at this like first event in Chicago. Matt steals the skateboard, which is cool that like the continuity, they keep that skateboard like through the rest of the summer. Like you see, that's the one he like wins the competition with at the end or whatever.
We need to talk about that too.
So good. Just like
it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make heads or tails.
What do you mean?
Well, I'll talk more about it when we get there.
There is like in the first scene in the skate shop, he's like, "Oh man, I'm this close to landing this trip." And he's like, "Trick." And he's like, "All right, well, when you land it, let me know and then I'll sponsor you." Which like is the trick he's talking about, the thing he landed at the very end that made the other guy quit?
It has to be. It has to be.
But
it's never established. It's never established. They were like,
but I'm like, I don't know if they're good skaters or not is the thing that's not established. I don't know how either. Good they are.
I don't know that, man. And I also don't know what a skating competition is. Like, because they never enter one technically. They just skate around for a while. So I don't know how it's graded. There's no judges. That's what I was confused about.
Yeah, so they don't compete really until Santa Monica, and they do that competition. But then afterwards, the hip hop dudes is what we'll call them. Like, basically kind of, he challenges them to a one-on-one thing. And I guess it's basically just whoever quits first is the deal. And so then he does the trick that makes the other dude quit. And then they have each other's respect in like a sort of after-school special type way.
Although it really makes it look like that he quit before he actually got the trick off, but he still won. But let's talk about since we're talking about it now, I'm gonna bring this up. The competition before the one-on-one battle of the skate, okay?
Yeah.
That was super lame. Like that was super fucking lame. Like the whole thing with Jennifer Morrison stunt double skating was way better than like what did they do? They skated with themselves. There wasn't like a competition.
No, it's like a street skate thing. It's basically it's graded like figure skating, right? You get a number score. So
but that would be cool to see though, right? Like if we had a panel of judges and we kind of like followed like what number score they got.
I mean, but I think it's very obvious they're not going to win, right? Like that's not the point. The whole point of this movie is for them not to win a competition. It's for them to make a career out of this, to get discovered.
It's to impress
Jimmy Wilson.
Jimmy Wilson, yeah.
Which is funny that there's only one skater that they need to impress, Jimmy Wilson, who is probably a stand-in, I guess, for Tony Hawk, I would imagine.
I guess. I'm surprised they didn't get Tony Hawk in here.
They got so many other people. But I don't think any like real. There's like a
They got
couple.
Bam.
Yeah, but that's more of a Jackass connection. There's so many Jackass connections. Like one of the hip hop dudes is Aaron McGahee, and then they got Wee Man, and then they got Preston Lacey. Like to all
Wee
be in
Man
this.
playing a little Timmy from like trying to trick the event coordinator into thinking he was a Make-A-Wish kid. I was like, oh fuck, you couldn't do that. You couldn't do that today. And then he's going behind everyone slapping their asses, and I was like, you can't do that today either.
I don't know. I think Wee Man can get away with it.
I do want to say that they did get a pro skater, and the little kid,
Ryan Sheckler.
Ryan Sheckler is him.
Just fucking dominated him, and you actually got to see his face as he was skating, which was really good.
Well, because he can skate.
He can. Back to the present, which is they're at the first event. They go up to the security guard, who is the guy from Bloodsport. And then Dave Foley as the manager is probably one of my favorite characters in this, like one of the favorite side characters that we meet. I love like the tapes falling out. And then a line that I have said so much like in my real life is like, I could do that, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to. And I really can't seem to find my way around that. Like I love his line delivery, the deadpan way in which he does it. Just like, but you guys are really cool. Just, keep skating.
One thing that I realized when I was looking up like who was who and who all the names were in this film, I actually know someone, like I personally know someone who's been in this movie.
Who?
He's Kai Lyman. He was in a couple of films that I did when I was like a PA working in LA, but he's just like a skater. He's just I think he's a stunt guy, a skater in this film.
That's cool. You like saw him in it?
No, I had to look up casting, and I recognized his name in the billing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it feels like, as we were saying, like there's definitely like a skate world connection to this, and I think the director even has that. But there's also like this Jackass connection. I'm just curious if they got Bam as a main person, then he's like, let's get all these. We can also have this and this and this, because this is sort of like part of the height of Jackass, right? And so like having all of these people in it, I think it helps both,
It does.
This was like not a huge movie, but I mean it was a wide release movie with like some major people in it like at the time, right? Like,
well, outside of the Jackass crew, like you said, you have Tom Green, you have Randy Quaid playing Matt's dad, you have Christopher McDonald playing our main character's dad,
Mr.
Eric.
Rivers.
You just have these, and then you have Adam Brody, who's probably the biggest out of like all of them for the time.
I'd say so. At the time, like I think Mike Vogel was a little bit after this, like talked about in like the Captain America casting, but I don't know if that was like internet people or if that was actually like a possibility. This has an estimated budget of $6 million, and according to IMDb, it made 5.1. So most of that money was made in the screening I went to that was full, I guess. So maybe I overestimated its reach.
You know who else you had in this movie was Brandon Michael Smith, who was the little kid that was like, where's the product launch? Like, and he tries to steal the board from Matt, and Matt like yanks it away.
Yeah, who's that guy?
He was in a bunch of Disney Channel. Like when he was like maybe 12 and 13, he was in like Sunny with a Chance, Phil of the Future. Like he filled in a lot of guest spots for Disney Channel.
Okay.
But if you look at him and you look at him, like you would recognize him. You'd be like, oh yeah, but not off like I think you're not expecting him in this flick because he's such a little kid. So it's kind of weird, but it's just like it's funny to kind of look at films like this. Like I've never heard of this movie before you introduced it to me, and then you look at it, it's like so many weird characters show up in here.
No, yeah, absolutely. So next we get the creation of Super Duper and the introduction of Sweet Lou. I remembered Sweet Lou saying I keep getting older and they stay the same age. And I was like, did he just really like steal that from McConaughey? And then I watched it this time. I was like, oh, he doesn't say it verbatim, but it's just like obviously the thing they're going for here.
I just sit here and watch the crop roll in.
It's just so easy.
Which is creepy as fuck, dude.
They're adult women, Alain.
Not always, I don't think.
Did you check IDs? Because I didn't.
I don't think Lou did either. I don't think Lou did either.
Maybe he was a little more loosey-goosey with like Tuesday through Thursday, but Friday and Saturday, those are 18-year-olds, you know?
So, I mean, if all he does was want to make... Anyways, I digress. The Wednesday chick and her dad pulling up behind him, you got to know that is not an 18-year-old woman, because that father would not be as mad as he was.
He's like, hey, Wednesday, my name's Sandy. Yeah, that's right.
I'll call you Wednesday.
Yeah, I love the detail on his van after they leave. It says Lou's like cat and dog grooming, and then like cat is crossed. It's like, what happened here?
And then the montage, or not the montage, but like the camera trick where like the camera pans and Matt already has the whole van spray painted.
That's actually really cool. Like, I mean, you can probably figure out how they did it. They did it with like a cut that you're just not seeing, but it was
it's a pan, and then in the like the motion blur, there's a cut there. Yeah.
Or maybe they just had a second van.
they just pulled up. Yeah, that could be it too.
That actually is like a very real possibility.
That's a very real possibility. Yes.
So after this, we get to the first meet, and we meet the hip hop dudes. The I smell like roses. And is a thing I have done too before. It works. It always works.
What? I don't get you.
He's like, he's like, I smell roses, and then they sniff. He's like, I farted.
You're such an ass.
Yeah, I know. And then we meet Jennifer Morrison again. And I like the whole time I'm like, I don't know what she does. And I was like, I'm so confused. And then we find out at the end that she is a professional skater, which presents more questions in the end too. But
yeah, can women skate? That's a question I have.
She does very well.
I love the ending too. She's like, she goes up to Eric and she's like, you don't have a problem with girl skaters, do you? Like, it's so 2003. It's crazy.
That's when it came out, so that makes sense. I doubt the skateboard could have gone through the windshield. Just like if we could get the what's that, the Discovery Channel guys that
the Mythbusters to figure that out.
If Mythbusters could take some time to figure that out, like what trajectory we needed for that to happen. I love the move at the party that night where they sneak in through the limo.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty clever. It would be. See, this movie like balances on the type of funny that you would find in like a movie like this of that time, but also it gets kind of ridiculous. I was fully expecting them as they walk out the other side of the limo, they're also all wearing blue. Like that, like a fucking Scooby-Doo episode.
Yeah, maybe.
But it works. They get in.
I found it funny that this party was basically for anyone who was able to get in. So how did those guys get Eric and his friends kicked out? Like, I don't know what they told security. Like, oh, they're not allowed to be
here.
They're
dancing really good. They need to go.
I love how Sweet Lou saw it coming and he just kind of ducked out of the way. He's like, I'm not getting... And then the showing his like silhouette is like, oh, I wonder what happened to Sweet Lou, and he's like spanking someone's ass.
Yeah, it's good. Look, I'm gonna say that there are a lot of funny moments in here, but I have a problem with the overall movie. Not to say that I did not laugh at some parts, and that is definitely one that I laughed at. The whole like dancing on the dance floor is so improbable, but it's funny as shit, and it's actually like it works for what type of movie this is. Even though I can't imagine any skaters that I know would ever do this kind of shit.
Busy beating you up, you know?
Yeah.
So I what did you think
They're
of
just beating my ass, and I'm just like, why don't you just dance, guys?
Just dance? What did you think of Adam Brody's line? Like, all right, well, let me just get you another glass of bitch.
I don't think you could get away with that. I don't think you could get away with that. I think like the era of like not taking rejection well has kind of passed in this sort of movies. But I liked all the follow up to he was like, huh? What'd you say? And
I
she's
can
like,
hear you.
I hear you. I'm just not listening.
Yeah. Well, and then the girl that talks to Matt, and she's like, why do I always talk to the gay guy? And he's like, what? No.
Yeah.
I love the motel scene next. You got the quick like montage, or it's the speed
How
up
much
shot.
for a night? $10 per hour, 40 for the whole night. Depends what you guys are into.
The speed up shot of them cleaning the pool, I think, is funny. And then I love, so do you know who Bobcat Goldthwait is? The guy who's
No.
So it's actually funny because I think if he had talked like he normally does, or like when he really like does his voice, he's got like probably the most distinct voice you've ever heard. He's a comedian. He also was like the voice of this. It's really fucking weird. He was the voice of this bunny that spoke to the main character in this live action show that was like a Married with Children sort of ripoff that I really liked back in like the 90s.
It sounds like you just made that up.
All those words together created a real thing that happened. But anyway, I love when they find like the underwear in the bed, and then later on they're like, oh, who farted? And there's like this really sweet moment between Eric and Dustin. Like, he's like, I'm sorry I dragged you out there. He's like, nah, man, I'm really liking it. And then Matt farts, and then Bobcat farts, and he's like, can I have my underwear back?
And then they just fucking get out of there. It's funny too, because it's like a kind of a homoerotic scene, because everything is shot from like shoulders up, but you can tell no one is wearing a shirt except Sweet Lou. Yeah.
Sweet Lou's not about that.
Sweet Lou cleans no man's poop.
He gets out of all the manual.
He does.
Stuff.
He does.
So after this, we get the Poison sing along, which I didn't even know that was Poison, but you're the one that told me that. And in the van,
I don't understand how people are alive and don't know Nothing But a Good Time Isn't Poison. It's fucking David Bowie and Perks of a Wallflower all over again, man.
Yeah, you knew that was David Bowie right away. So
oh yeah. So
then we get Chili and Such. It's a funny scene.
I'm sorry. I do have to go back to the Poison sing-along and say that was my shining moment of the movie. That was my favorite part of the whole movie. Like the dancing at the club and the singing, because they all start off with like only Sweet Lou knows who Poison is. And then in the same verse, everyone knows the entire song verbatim. And I think it's a great moment in the movie. It shows real camaraderie. And I will say I started enjoying the movie after that.
Wow.
Yeah. Growth. I have it.
We get Chili and Such with the free food thing that ties back into Brian Posehn earlier. And then the skate shop with Tom Green.
When that little kid throws up all over Adam Brody, and then you go get the wide shot and there's no throw up anywhere, and then Adam Brody doesn't have a bit of throw up on him. It's just the receipt. And the play was like, we established that you could get a refund no matter what in the beginning of the movie. So the play of him being like, hey, I want 10 giant burritos and like 6 drinks. And he's like, well, what did you get? He's like, I got
it was just
4 coffees. He's like, yeah, I remember that order.
You forgot about, there's the shot from above of Adam Brody and the little kid, and there's no throw up anywhere.
No, I said that. I said there's no throw up anywhere on him, on the ground, nowhere.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was from they were like, we're moving on.
I don't know if you saw in the bloopers, but that little kid actually threw up.
Yeah, like the little bit of spit up, because it's fake. It's a fake thing behind him, but then he's just like making the if you do that where you're like faking throw up for long enough, like stuff can come out.
Oh yeah.
He was method. We already talked about the Tom Green scene. They pick up that girl who eventually steals the van. I love when Matt's like, you got to get her out of here, man. It's just ruining the vibe. And he's like, my van, my rules. And I like her. And then she steals the van and just the touche.
And then it plays off again because at the end of the movie she steals the hip hop guy's van
Yes.
or SUV. It's great.
When I first saw that this time, I was like, oh, was she like working with them? And then she steals the van like 30 seconds later. I was like, was she trying to screw these guys over? Like the hip hop dudes put her up to it?
Quite a while ago, and we didn't talk about it, but why were there so many close-ups on the Cadillac emblem? Like, there was just longing close-ups on the Cadillac emblem.
Why do you think we paid for this movie, man?
It's Cadillac.
So they make it to Tucson. He talks to Bam again. This is Bam's scene where you felt like Bam didn't do as well as he could have. And
he did okay for who he is.
For who he is. It is like a bold move by Eric, right? I guess his priorities have been just this skating thing for him to like sort of, he has to know he's throwing that away by like challenging Bam, and Bam's immediately like, well, fuck, any chance I had of watching this, go fuck yourself. And then he just walks off.
Yeah, it's just kind of a weird, like, it's a weird PR move to play yourself in a movie and then play an asshole of yourself in the movie. You know what I mean?
I don't think he cares.
Probably not.
We get the sneaking onto Jimmy's bus scene, and then Matt takes a shit, and he's like, I might not get a piece of Jimmy, but Jimmy's going to get a piece of me.
Another hilarious Matt moment that everyone absolutely loves.
I love Jimmy Wilson. Like, no number 2 on the bus. Who did this?
The tape, when Matt Brody switches out the tape and the tape comes unspooled, is such a, oh my God, that doesn't happen anymore. We don't have tapes. We don't deal with that. And when the other guy with Jimmy Wilson's like, yeah, just give me some time to fix this. I was like, that seems like the biggest pain in the ass to spool back to take a fucking pencil and to spool that entire tape back. Oh my God. That's something that like your son and my eventual kids will just never, like, kids that are like teenagers today will never understand.
That's like on computers, the save button is a floppy disk, and they're like, "What the fuck
floppy
is that?"
disk? Yeah. And you could lock the floppy disk. And I don't know if you had this because we have like 5 years in between us difference, but when I was in grade school, you had to download everything onto a floppy disk and hand it in as homework. Did you ever have to do that?
Sometimes, but not really. Like for computer class type stuff, we would do that, but not for anything else.
Oh, I had to do like history papers on a floppy disk and send them in when I was in like 5th grade.
Yeah, no, we didn't do that. So next he's talking to Jamie about, skating and wanting to get sponsored. And I love like all his friends come up, and then Sweet Lou's like, so what's up? And Eric's like, oh no, come on, let's go. Like, this is not happening, Sweet Lou.
And then Matt just kisses her on the cheek like he's known her for years. Nah.
It's actually like maybe the least offensive thing he's done to a woman in the
that's saying
movie.
Something.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it almost came off as sweet. Like, all right, see you, baby. And then we get Preston Lacey having to take a shit, and then Eric gets the idea to do a jump in front of the bus.
How we're introduced to that guy with the 4-wheeler is so weird. It's so odd.
And he's like, I got an idea. What's funny is the security guard comes up to him afterwards. He's like, oh, that's it. You have to clean the porta potty up, or I'm going to call the police. And then the security guard just walks away. I'm like, why don't you guys just walk away?
Just walk away. Yeah. And also I like how he's like, ha, like Adam Rose, like, ha, idiot. This is a skate demo. Like, of course there's skating allowed. And he points to a sign that says no skateboarding. And he just goes, ha, idiot, like right back at him. It was funny.
So next we get a scene where Eric has just given up on the dream, and all the other guys have to tell him, like, no, man, the dream lives on.
So cliche.
Yeah, that was probably the worst scene. And then Jamie walks up and she's like, hey, why don't we go to Santa Monica? And Matt's like, nah, man, a chick has already ruined this. So like, team meeting. And I just love her. Like, guys, I can still hear you. I'm like right here.
I love how they each have something to say about her. Adam Brody is like, don't be an idiot. And then he's like, Eric's like, yeah, man, she's a sweet girl. And then Sweet Lou's like, yeah, she's sexy.
And then they see that she has a car, and they're like, oh, "Good job, Matt." And Matt's like, "It's time to meet the clowns." What I
Again,
love,
Jesus, go ahead.
what I love about the clowns is they play this completely serious.
Yeah, they do.
Not at any point admit the ludicrousness of this. And then the line to his parents, he's like, "I don't know. Maybe I'm upset because you left me my senior year and joined the circus." And he just says it like a real thing.
Yeah, with the sad music and everything. It's like the push into his close up, and they go, what did they say? They said, "I'm sorry we try to push clown school on you."
Yeah, it was. It's just I love that they just went for it, right? And they didn't.
And well, you say that, but then all the emotion is undercut by when he goes to shake his dad's hand and it's the electric buzzer thing.
Well, yeah, right. Like at the very end. But
yeah,
I think for the most part, it is played very serious. And then Sweet Lou falls in love with the clown sister.
I need to talk about the elephant in the room. And Adam Brody notices this.
The skateboard?
Why is Matt's skateboard a sexed up version of his sister?
Yeah, there's no explanation for this. I don't fully understand.
But Adam Brody's face, like looking at the skateboard, looking back at the sister, and then looking back at the skateboard is one of the funniest moments in the movie.
I need to talk to someone to explain to me what that was. Because like at first I noticed it and I was like, oh, that's like a little Easter egg. And then they have Adam Brody like stare at her and stare at him. And then she does like the peace sign that's like on the board. I'm almost wondering if maybe Matt just had like the joke is that Matt has this like hot chick on his board that he's like, oh, she's so hot, not realizing that it's like what his sister looks like.
His sister, yeah, maybe
that is probably what it's going for, but it does not explain it, and there are more like nefarious things you could think it would be.
The follow-up joke to where they're at the Santa Monica thing, and he goes. He goes to Sweet Lou. Matt goes to Sweet Lou. He's like, "Hey, man, I have something for you." It's her nose.
And he's just so like, "Oh, thanks, man." He's like, "I'm in love. Sweet Lou's out of the game."
I like the roundabout way. Like he has her on his arm, and instead of like turning to her and be like, "I love you," he turns to his friends and he's like, "I love this chick."
He won't even talk to her. She's just like right there. We get to Santa Monica, and this is when this really turns into a sports movie. Jamie pre-registered them. They do this whole thing with Wee Man as a little kid, and then the guy's like, "Listen, man, unless you're pre-registered, you're not getting in." Which you are pre-registered. Welcome, super duper skates.
Yeah, and then we find out that all that groundwork that Eric was doing to Jamie worked out, paid off in the end.
I totally didn't see you for who you were. Well, who do you think I am? I don't know, but I want to find out.
Find out, yeah.
Yeah, that is good. Could have been a little better right there. And then we get the final skate. And let me just tell you that this movie ends with Seeing Red by Unwritten Law, which is like one of my favorite songs from that era. And then right afterwards, when it's the one-on-one with POD.
Yeah.
And that one-on-one skate lasts so long that they just repeating the POD song. They just keep backing it up and playing the same part.
Get you I get on anyone.
Yeah. Well, no, you're singing Headstrong, which was way earlier.
Oh, well, that's the only one I recognize.
That's Trapped. Also a big Trapped fan. I actually went to Downtown Disney and I saw Trapped live, right? This is the only time I got to see him.
Back when Downtown Disney was still Downtown Disney?
I'm going to call it Downtown Disney until I die. And I went.
Pleasure Island.
They were like, hey, we're going to play. This is like it was like a 15-year anniversary of their first CD. And they're like, so we're celebrating that first CD. They played that first CD in track list order. They just played the CD live in order. And it's many times as I had listened to it, I recognized by the second song that's what they were doing because I listened to it so much.
Oh,
and it was pretty
nice.
awesome. It was pretty awesome.
Good for you. I'm glad you had a good experience there. So yeah, just the whole, I guess I'll go back to my complaint since we're at this moment now, is that you have no understanding. If you don't know skateboarding, you have no understanding how well they're doing or who they're doing better than, or if they are doing bad. I was like, they're just kind of skating around and making a few jumps. And every time they look up in the crowd, it's Matt's parents, cheering them on.
How much do you think Randy Quaid cost to get in this movie?
As much time as they like shoehorn him in, probably quite a bit.
Well, he's got to at least be in a few days of shooting, right? Because he's at the Clown House and then he's at Santa Monica. Which that actually, if that wasn't Santa Monica, that's definitely California. And I imagine like
Santa Monica. It was Santa Monica. And you know what I'm wondering too is that was production just shooting an actual skate competition instead of like setting up a fake one?
Like shooting in and around it? That's possible. It's like very possible. And it could have been like the same one the whole time, just like a very big one. And they're just like, all right, well, this will be the Kansas one. And then this is this one.
I could see that. I could see that being a huge possibility.
So your complaint, I think, is taken care of because they show them in the competition and you're like, yeah, I don't really know how well they're doing. Like the crowd is cheering. And so it's like, I guess they're doing well. But that one, that's not the point, right? Like winning isn't the point.
No, you're right.
It's making a living.
You're right.
But two, in order to be like, yeah, I don't know who's winning here, they then have a direct competition one-on-one with hip hop guy number one.
The thing with hip hop guy number one's competition with Eric is that they just decide to do it mano a mano by themselves. Like them doing it eventually draws that big of a crowd to it, but it's not like there's an announcer being like, all right, we're gonna start this competition between the Super Dupers and the blue hip hop guys. Like they just kind of do it on their own accord as like a rivalry, and then it just becomes this thing, which then I'm like, okay, so that's obviously doesn't count to anyone. And then Jimmy still rides off on his bus. And that's like a character growth for Eric, right? Is that he drives off on his bus and he didn't even see him. And everyone's like disappointed. And Eric's like, nah, man, it's the friends we made along the way sort of shit.
It's the journey. Yeah. I mean, that is part of his growth. And then I will say that trick was pretty fucking badass where he like grabs the board in between his legs.
You could tell it's a hard trick. I don't know. But you could tell it's a hard trick because in the bloopers, they fail at it so many times and they show you it.
No, it's a hard trick. It's for sure a hard trick. And then we're back in Chicago. Sweet Lou is with the circus. Eric is working for his dad. And I guess, what's his name? Dustin's at college. And then Jimmy Wilson's bus pulls up and Jamie is on it. Jamie's a professional skater in her own right, I guess, but why is she, as Eric, are you a little worried? Like, hey, why are you on Jimmy's bus?
Well, he was like, Adam Brody asked him, he's like, hey, when's the last time you heard from Jamie? And he's like, oh, like a month ago. I'm like, you haven't heard this chick in a month, and she just finds you in a random park in Chicago? Like, the luck. And also, we didn't talk about that. Sweet Lou, before leaving the clown campus, gives the sister his glasses. He gives him the nose, like they're never going to see each other again. And then literally in the next scene, they're there in Santa Monica at the skating competition, I guess from Tucson to Santa Monica. And it's like, then she gives him back his glasses. It's a weird interaction.
That's love for you, man.
I
don't know
guess.
what to tell you.
But this movie wraps up so quick. You're right. And then they're like, there's Jimmy with Jamie.
I'd have questions as Eric. I'm like, what the fuck? And then he's like, hey, want to come skate with me? And, all your dreams come true. And he's like, yes, all my dreams come true. Great. And then we get the final scene where he gives the free skateboard to that kid. And we were like, he's made it and he's a professional and everything's great.
Yeah, this movie wraps up real quick. Like, puts a nice bow on everything. And then I love how, like, Mike and Dustin just get on the bus. Like, yeah, we don't need to go home and pack anything. We're ready.
Yeah, Jimmy's like, get on the fucking bus. And they're like, okay, yeah, I mean, I guess. And then what happens to Dustin's college? He's just like, all right, sweet, no college.
Well, Dustin still needs his pediatric pillow back home that he was complaining about at the beginning.
Well, Matt threw out his college book, so how's he ever going to do well in college if he doesn't have college for dummies?
Why'd you throw out my college book, man? Are you just jealous because you can't read?
I mean, he would be like the most annoying fucking person to deal with.
Oh, there was this moment where like someone said something completely normal, and as like a reaction to that completely normal thing the person said, Matt just goes, I would just be like, nah, fuck you, dude. Fucking never mind. Forget it.
When he ate my sandwich in the desert because I bought myself food with my money, oh my god, I would have fucking punched him.
So look, I do like moments of this movie, and I think that you're big enough to admit that this movie has its own faults. So I think we can maybe meet somewhere in the middle, that this is brink for assholes.
This movie fucking slaps.
No,
slapped for the last 20 years.
No.
The music, the skating, the comedy, it's a tour de force.
I give it a 3 out of 10. But like a strong 3.
Do you know what I gave it on IMDb when it came out?
Did you give it a 5 out of 5, you fuck?
I gave it a 10 out of fucking 10. And I stand by it.
Oh my god.
Well, thanks for listening to another episode of I Finally Watched. This is David.
And this is Alain, and I finally watched Grind.